So we decided first issues about the enemy. Image of an enemy is a part of our identity. Could we survive without an enemy? What do you think?
I think that we can't exist without an enemy. Between the US and Russia, it's just easy to be able to point the finger and say, oh, this is the enemy.
America serves as an enemy and unites Russian people. There is an idea that Americans are bad people and they want to, I don't know, throw a bomb on Russia or something. And that is a great factor in our identity as a nation in Russia.
I would say in America, like every day there's a new enemy. Russia isn't our only enemy. China's our enemy, like Mexico at this point is our enemy. And it's hard even for citizens of our own country to kind of unite. So what can we all do? Yeah, we can unite against the other.
Don't you think that there's a difference between a competitor and an enemy? And if yes, then what kind of difference is that? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that a competitor and an enemy are different. However, it's easy to portray them as a similar thing, especially in the media when there's just so much white noise that many of these words can get mixed together.
Competitiveness is in our nature, and I think that if there's any justifiable competitiveness between our nations, it's only on the government level, and there's no reason that we as people, as citizens, have to hate each other.
I find it terrifying that America and Russia think they're enemies when there's nothing in dispute. We don't have borders that we're fighting over. We don't even have trade wars. We certainly don't have ideology.
Back in Soviet times, we had a lot of enemies, internal enemies, right? And in the US as well, during the Soviet times, they were hunting for communists. What about the enemies that are constructed not outside, but inside?
In Russia, a lot of people like to complain about the quality of life, and every time our president does something wrong, he's the bad guy, although we were the ones who chose him.
If there's a justified enemy, it should be the government, and the government should not be trusted at any time. Even if it's seemingly on your side ideologically, you should always distrust it.
It's really the governments who are making these decisions of who our enemies are, like the governments and whatever the media is saying. It's not, honestly, your average Joe.
Ordinary people don't like the rich, I think, in Russia. Is that the case in America as well? Yeah?
I think that we have to stop thinking that enemies always have to be states or people, so to speak, and that maybe to unite humanity, we need to think of enemies as being things such as nuclear proliferation or hunger. An enemy could be some like non-human thing that is harmful to humanity.
I don't know, privacy maybe, because we're all becoming, a lot of countries, more connected. You know, these phones, these computers, they have our passwords, they have our bank accounts. This shared system of cybersecurity can so easily be accessed by like any country, any hackers, anywhere.
Another enemy I think that we all share that is probably not talked about enough is the changing environment of the world, like global warming and rising sea levels.
25 years ago, many in Russia and the States believed in our general enemy like nuclear weapons. Could it be again reinvented as a main enemy of Russia and the US, the biggest nuclear powers?
I grew up in Japan, so the evidence of nuclear weapons and their effects that they can have on a city and on just the general spirit and humanity is very close to home. And so I do think that that is one of our common enemies, but I don't think it's talked about because the general American news cycle is tired with it. We've heard it for decades and decades of at any minute the bomb could fall, you know.
If we want to change something between our countries, that we should start with people, with normal people, probably use culture, art, music, theater.
Finding a solution to bridging this international gap, it's going to have to come down to just face-to-face interaction and like this, like meeting in person.
Face-to-face connections are very good. Of course, you can find it online, but it's just not the same as meeting these people and talking about different topics, which maybe you cannot even talk about in your country, but you can here, for example, with us.